So the next thing is, we've talked about this before. When I first came to America, because of, and I'm not like that, but because a lot of British fellas who'd come before me, I'd been known to, if people messed them about, they would mess them about back, or sometimes take liberties with them.
For sure.
And so when I first got here, it took me a long while for a lot of people to not think I was going to hurt them, because I did I did different ways of putting holds on, and I did proper wrist locks, and I did things that are based off catch wrestling and stuff that wasn't the norm at the time. There's been people, we've talked about this. There was Tony Charles and Les Thornton and Billy Robinson, the great Billy Robinson, and people for years doing that, but never on a nationwide scale for the last, probably since the mid 80s, when Les Thornton was doing it in the WWE.
Sure.
Right.
And I guess we didn't get much of it, but a little bit of it with the Bulldogs, right? Like we saw moments of it,
they'd sort of Americanized their style, if that makes any sense.
To the high flying rope.
Yes.
Yeah,
and they'd gone to Calgary, and they'd got their own style. So the actual traditional, there's the match of me and David, we started doing a little bit of, we did some of that, but that was, and there was a mixture. There was a little mixture, because the younger wrestlers from the late 80s and the Chris Benoits and the Two Cold Scorpios that have been through WCW in the early 93, same as me, we'd a lot of us had all picked up, or they'd picked up different. There was a lot of European influence and Japanese influence in their style of wrestling.
Sure.
For what, obviously, because they'd trained in Japan, but and going through Calgary, there was a lot of British influence of certain moves and certain sequences of moves, and so there was some of it. But I really went sort of to the traditional style, because I couldn't do the stuff that they could do. I couldn't do all the incredible movement that they could do. That's not my forte. So, but I really went to this. So for the first 12 months, unless I was on with somebody who was experienced, there was a lot of, because there's nothing and nobody bigger than a myth, right? But there was a myth, and it sort of spread in wrestling of, because of people that had done certain things to people, and people had told tales, and once somebody tells a tale, it becomes worse and worse.
Right.
So if any of the people I'd mentioned earlier that had come through in the 60s, 70s, and 80s had ironed a few people out, I mean, like hurt them or dragged them about a bit. Adrian Street was another one. Adrian Street had, he had to imagine him. Adrian's not the tallest person. He was in Bill Watts' territory,
right? And especially with his character,
and doing his character. Right, do you think that? And Adrian could go. Do you think that he didn't have to stick it on a few people?
Almost on the daily, probably.
Right, right. And I know, because Terry Taylor's told me stories about what Adrian did to him, and Terry Taylor's told me stories of what Les Thornton had done to him, and and put him in real holes and made him like, you think you're that, okay, and like next thing it's a different thing, right? So I'd spent I'd sort of got that had all gone away, because I'd been here since 1993. Well, as soon as everybody saw fit beat me up, most of the people that weren't experienced, I know, because I was obviously there. Through all the extra talent and that, they're all scared to death of him.